Hello, everybody. My name is James Craddock with Key Difference Media, and this is Karnika Yashwant on the line with this also Key. And we are here today to share with you the 4D leverage science, art and science of, I like that. I went looking for my logo to read it, and I missed it. 4D leverage is the art and science of content, and that's what we talk about around here is content marketing, of course. Key Difference Media, a content marketing centric full service digital agency, and with the horsepower to repurpose and syndicate content. And so we enjoy the conversation around content because we tend in this 4D leverage world that we live in and that we're promoting here, we take content further to its next level. We think about content and look at it from kind of a 30,000 view level, because what that allows is see the real power of content as it connects to people. And so we start at the very beginning of a strategy, of a business plan, of a theme, whatever that content to accomplish. We start at the very beginning, bring those assets around to where they can actually shape the hearts and minds of those who you are attracting to your offers. And so when we talk about content, we see it as both science and art. We see the technical aspects and the optimizing content and of the sales funnel and everything on the back end in order to accomplish what it is that you're trying to accomplish. But we also see the art of it, and we see the talking to someone almost in an impressionistic way, where they are seeing your content here and there across the internet in different channels that they go to, and they're seeing it from different perspectives and in different forms. That is little by little creating and crafting an image of their mind of who you are and what you're all about. And that can come from many different angles and perspectives. Therefore, we system and our own systematic ways of watching that content into a distribution strategy. And that strategy helps us to ensure the great when using content. And today we're going to talk about one of these elements of content, a way to influence people with your content and leverage that content in what we call content hubs. And you may have heard of a content hub before. Maybe you build content hubs, part of your business. Maybe you're a digital marketer, etc. Content hubs are probably the greatest honeypot, as I call it, the greatest honeypot of opportunity by which to present your content around a theme. And you'll see a few examples here shortly of content hubs that are doing just that, from the demographic of the particular company serves. They find a theme running through it, and they apply that theme to all the content that they collect in a single place. And when we do that, we centralize that content, because the very definition of a content hub is the idea of centralizing content into a one for your website visitors without password protection like a member site, which has protected content. This is content that you're encouraging people to come digest and to share with and engage. This is the honeypot of where you're drawing everybody to. It's often hosting your branded content, curated content, social media content, user-generated content, video, documents, and lead forms. It's an entire moldable hub of content that allows you to carry your readers through different channels in order to engage them with content. And it really isn't a place of sales, although as you pull people from this hub, you can run them through sales funnels. But the content hub itself is predominantly a place of engagement. Somebody once referred to Facebook as a front porch. You remember the movie Friday, right? Where you just hang out and watch all the people that come by, and you've got a little hangout going on your front porch, and you got something happening, and they're going to stop by your front porch and chat with you and just check it out. But you're not there selling them stuff, right? Otherwise, they would just from the sidewalk wave at you and just keep on going. But that content hub is a place where not only do they engage your content, but they engage one another, and they engage around this idea that they are intrinsically brought to that place by. And because the content hub attracts people based on an idea, then it gives people a much softer way to approach your brand. And often a brand doesn't even really do any sales or do any kind of promotion on the content hub other than represent it as the host. And this falls into the line of content marketing around story, content marketing around organizations. I mean, there's lots of different ways you can centralize your content, different themes that you can use, and different infrastructures on creating that hub. But just in general, it's a collection of content that can be displayed in a single website with a single user. People will come there. So let's take a look at a few of these content hubs. For example, Technologists is a content hub created in partnership with GE. So GE all about, right? Bringing better things to life, bigger things to life, gooder things to life. The GE is all about bringing things to life. And they have divisions from aircraft to instrumentation to appliances, etc. So this hub shares content related to the great challenges of industry, technology, and ingenuity. So that's an exciting place for anybody that's interested in technology. And does this mean that the person that's digesting this information is necessarily going to buy a GE appliance or take out a GE line of credit or whatever the case may be? It doesn't have to be that one-to-one. And that's kind of the beauty of content hubs, where when you do content marketing, you're very purposeful about the shaping of the message and where you're going to put it, and of the optimizing of that content and the call to action, etc. But in a content, be a little looser with your approach because of the fact that it gives you different perspectives by which to approach this idea. Am I still on screen share there?
Yes, you are.
Okay. So technologists here, they come together around this idea of industry, technology, and ingenuity, and all of those exciting aspects of that mindset. And that will attract people who are specific to the GE brand. But really what it does is it solidifies GE's brand. It solidifies them as being a driver and an authority in this particular arena, so that the people that come to this site and engage in this content keep GE first of mind, right? And when they do go to buy something, then that becomes part of the landscape that GE has built into that person's psyche regarding engaging in their kind of product. So this Technologist, let's look at GQ. GQ is the I forget how to say this, Condé Nast's own publication. GQ showcases its content in a beautiful interactive hub. And of course, GQ stands for Gentleman's Quarterly. It's a magazine that is aimed at gentlemen, right? And the pop cultural definition, it's really what they go for, is trying to be part of what defines that culture. So in GQ's instance, they sell all kinds of products through different channels, and they even do private labeling and their own branded product. But they consistently share content about success, which is things that gentlemen are concerned with, style, fashion. They have a provocative mix of writing and strong visuals. And so the whole site is tuned to resonate at the same level that their overall message does with their magazine. And it's not really intended to be an extension of their magazine. It's intended to be a visual demonstration and a content-rich interpretation, if you will, of that very theme that their whole magazine is centered around. And from there, you're able to, in this interactive environment, get much more locked into the mindset of what a GQ individual, a GQ man, a GQ woman, however you approach it, that you start to become that person. And that's a great way from this perspective to look at it, as these content hubs can literally help shape your audience in such a way that they are now aligned with you. And if they're aligned with you, they'll buy your products because they understand that innately that alignment, it feels good to them. It's natural to them. So these content hubs, as the honey's being produced, and we feed on that honey, we become aligned with that honey. You know, honey has a lot of anti-allergenic type of properties to it. If you eat local honey, you become immune to the local allergies and the pollens in the air. And you can kind of look at a content hub in the same way. It aligns people with that honey. It dials them in so that when they go to make purchasing decisions or just go to live their lives, they will see life in contrast to that content hub. And the longer you can keep them there and the more you can engage them through all the other channels to bring them back to your hub, the better and the more real estate you basically take up in the mind of your prospects and customers. So then there's American Express. And imagine American Express only had a content hub that was made up of credit stuff, or it's credit offers, credit, this, that, and the other. You know, we wouldn't find it very interesting. Actually, unless they peeled back every credit, even if they peeled back every credit scandal, everything that had to do with credit that was dramatic and exciting. After a while, we'd just be like, oh my goodness, that's just too much, right? And you wouldn't find much engagement with it. So American Express looks for a bottom line theme that runs throughout the vision and the anticipation and the expectation of all their market. And that bottom line theme always has been, it wasn't hard for them to find, is small business. So their open forum is a content hub designed to share content that's of value to business owners. In particular, small business owners. Business owners and entrepreneurs are encouraged to share content and business advice. So not only do they dial into content that a business owner would want to see over and over and over again, but they also dial into the fact that these business owners will share that content in an effort to make them keep themselves relevant, to keep themselves looking, maybe even to load up their own content hubs with some of the elements and the things that they can share from this content hub. So it becomes kinetic, and they tap into an element that's not just exciting, but it's the holy grail, right? The engagement. Content is queen, but engagement is queen, and the lady rules the house. And so that engagement is what we're after in these content hubs. Because they are like beehives, they are full of tasty honey, specific to an app. That's the key. You know, these bees, they collect and they're all communicated to by the queen bee through, you know, invisible bee communication devices. And they all work in a harmony to produce a very specific DNA in a very specific honey. That's why honey from all over the place can vary in flavor, and how it interacts with your body, etc. And so when we create these content hives, we're looking for that silver lining. Now, could you have multiple content hives? Sure. Every content hub, you are dividing your marketing energy, right? But there may be logical reason for it. But just for example, you could have a type of websites. I mean, American Express is focusing on small business, but they could even niche that out into a content hub that only talks about travel. And the people that in their card while in travel would engage with that travel site, and that could be a rich and exciting type of site. But each content hub needs to have a clearly defined, specific theme that you are feeding with the content that you're creating. Now, these content hubs exponentially increase the impact of distributed content. It's not a content hub, which understandably is an added expense, an added place that you have to put information and build that whole network, etc., or that platform. But the power of it is worth it. There is ROI built into the model. However, it has to be set up in the bigger strategy in a proper way. You have to know that that content hub is resonating with the content you're putting out in social media. You've got to use that content in social media to drive traffic to your content hub. But when the content in digital channels drives prospects to your content hub, they're significantly more likely to engage with your brand. Listen, if they meet you out in social media, you drive them straight to a landing page, more and more that's becoming almost as bad as an interruption. And it can have its negative effects. It can have its positive effects too. It just depends on how you lay a strategy. But if you're putting very lighthearted content out on social media, and then you drive that lighthearted content to a very lively and engaging a mindset-oriented content hub, then when those bees come to that hive, they're going to find that it's a great place to make honey. All right, I'll be done with the metaphor. But it's exactly how you get them in the social media realm. When they read an article or see a post or see an image or watch a video, that piques their interest. And knowing that that has the exact same intrinsic theme that your content hub does, you know that when they leave the content external and move towards your hub, you know that they're getting there with a very specific appetite, because you've seeded that appetite in your content. And you can web that talks about the features and the benefits of your product, the service and the process of your product, as well as the employees and the stories and the charitable good that you're doing. And you can call all of that. But if in the back of your mind, while that content's being created, you are fully aware that there is an intrinsic theme that you're trying to reinforce, and that when they go from the social media content hub, that theme continues to be reinforced, but now in a very large dynamic that is all about that, you will quickly engage people. If they followed you for the purpose of that theme, they're going to find something there across all these multiple perspectives that feeds that theme. And that theme will remain constant, but the feeding will always change, and that will keep them engaged. They connect for the theme, for the underlying structure of who you're talking to and what you're saying, but they stay because of ways of engaging them around that theme. So this creates an exponential branding and an exponential amplification, if you will, of that inside that content hub, and it further increases the viability of the content out on the web. Key, I'm sure that you've got something along the scientific lines to us about just how this interaction between a saturation of content around a theme and the content that's displayed out in social media, how they can come together and explode. Right. Go for it.
So basically, when it comes to social media, it is just a place where you're driving interest. So social media is a place where people could read the title, could read one or two lines, could look at your image and could get attracted. But Content Hub is where you get them to engage with you deeper, longer, and get your message across on a consistent basis. If they subscribe to you on social media, you definitely could have posts made which could reach out to them, but you can always be rest assured that less than 4% of your post is reaching your audience, and you're not going to really reach out to them. You're just trying to reach out to them. Even if they like you, they're part of your community, you're still trying and trying. And every post that you make, if you succeed, you reach out to more people. If you don't, you don't. But with Content Hub, when you get them to your site, when you get them to subscribe, when you get them to actually engage there, that is when it turns out into an asset. Social fans were considered as an asset and are still considered as an asset. But as day passes by, the value of that asset is definitely getting undervalued. And as the old estimate goes, email list is still the most valued asset currently online, because that is where you have the real assurance that you can reach out to them. Of course, you still have difficulties with reaching out in their inbox, but still that is the most valuable asset at this point. So when we get someone to your Content Hub, when you get them to the page, you know that when they read something, when they complete reading and reading a piece of article or video, you always have opportunities to upsell them one more piece of content. You have opportunity to show them something that's relevant to what it is that they're reading. So the more intelligent content that is shared or referred to them, the more longer we can expect them to stay. So if the content is all tightly knit, if it is all viewed in a way that one leads to another, or whatever they're reading and whatever they could read are all properly shown to them, you definitely have people captivated for hours. Even it's something that we might have experienced it ourselves. We might go to a site and we might read one article after another, and it might just be an hour or two lost into the reading part, and we continue to have interest towards it. And then people tend to use different plugins, different tools like Pocket or etc., where they store the articles for reading later. So end of the day, content hub is a place where you consolidate, where you bring in all your energies. It is a place where you make the most. But to get people there, social media helps you to reach out. It's just like a bait. Interest them, get them to your site, retain them longer in every read, every session, and continue to get them back to your site using different mediums. But content hub is where you monetize. When I say monetize, it is not advertising, but you're monetizing by captivating their mind share, by getting your brand or your message or your brand recall into their mind so well that when they need something that your brand does, because of the content hub, because you penetrated through it, they know you and they know that you paid forward for it. You already gave them more value than most others in the industry, and they know back to find you, and they know what they need to buy from you, and it just simplifies your marketing or sales process from there on.
So, Key, speak to this idea, how you could use repurposing, or how, from your perspective, could a content hub be a natural outgrowth of the content that's being created for the social media aspect? In other words, if somebody wants to create seed content, right? Great seed content, and then that seed content gets to all these different platforms, whether it's Pinterest, and you need images and video and audio, right? It gets all repurposed, and then it gets distributed out and syndicated out. Can that same content also be used to fill your content hub so that you minimize the real impact of a content hub to just cost to get it set up, and maybe a light cost to and the ability to maintain a social media stream of content, but filter that content and reuse it again in your content hub in such a way that it's not duplicating itself across the web and people just kind of feel like it. How would you handle that? How would you approach that in the most efficient manner possible, I guess?
Okay, so there are two, I would say there is a beautiful process laid out in the industry, which most don't follow. It's very hard to find people who actually do. So here's the thing: the seed content that they have is going to be the primary content hub's content. So in the content hub, that's the content that they publish, but they would be using the repurposed content in social media across all these different channels to attract traffic to the particular page, to the content hub, or to a particular post. But you could also use this as a lead capturing process. So let's say you have an article. That article could be, let's say, 600 words long, but you also have a long form version of the article, because most of the times content hubs do not just write a piece of article and publish. They do a lot of research. They spend a lot of time writing every piece of content. That for a 500 word article, they might have 1,500 words of background material. So if you can pack that material into a PDF, I mean, when I say into a PDF, I'm not asking you to do a lot of rework on it, because most probably they already have 1,000 words article. They would be paraphrasing, removing unwanted things, removing some resources out of it, and would be consolidating a 500 words. But if they can take one previous version, which has all the resources, links, more information, or more concepts, more examples, and if they can package that into a white paper or a PDF, and that could be given as a lead magnet. So when they're reading this article, you would be titling that particular white paper, which is very similar to this, but more detailed. So it's the title or the pitch there is just a one-liner, but it is more attractive pitch. It is more attractive because it has more information. You add that, you put up a lead box where you capture their first name and their email address, and then you continue the rest of the article. So if you strategically insert this, the number of people opting in for this additional information is going to be higher. Most of the times you might find it is the same user who is subscribing again and again in every article to access this PDF, but you know that he's more interested. You know that every time he puts in his name and email address, he's more committed and he's very serious about what it is that you offer. So it is a measure of getting him to engage more, getting him to commit more, getting him to stay with the brand longer and stronger. And there are also cases where this first name and email could be replaced with an option for share to receive. So all they have to do is share it on their Facebook or Twitter for them to receive the download of a PDF. Now we are giving them an incentive to share the article to gain a longer form version, or a much more valuable piece of content which is very relevant to that particular post. This is observed in Quick Sprout, Neil Patel's blog. He is one of the top digital marketers out there, and he's a content marketer as well. And he specifically does this in every single blog post. If you look at hundreds of blog posts, he has one PDF for every one of them. And the way he's converting, I remember he had one of a detailed blog post of his where he described how this has helped him increase his number of opt-ins by a proofing number. So coming back to the social media. So social media is going to help them with the traffic. Social media is where you distribute the content with content as images or different formats to attract people, and all the different places where you're distributing, they're all going to help you with the traffic. But coming back to Content Hub, that is where you give in the longest forms of content, and you also naturally between these different social sites, you'll be interlinking them. Let's say the YouTube would be linking back to a slide share saying, okay, if you want to just download a quick slide version of the content, visit here. At the same time, if within the Content Hub, you could always provide them resource for a video, a quick embed of a video for people who do not just want to read the entire article but browse through that as a video will be helpful. And some of the news sites tend to do that these days. They started increasing their video availability in as many articles as they can. And again, the video is going to be a little elaborate than the article out there, or it could have little pieces of additional information, but that makes it much more effective, because longer someone is looking at a video, they're going to stay on the page longer, and staying on the page longer is going to give higher credibility from a Google's standpoint. And so when someone is looking at a video, they don't tend to skip, they don't tend to jump, they don't tend to just skim the content. But as the nature of the video goes, you have to sit, wait, watch, and listen to it. Of course, YouTube comes with the speed player these days, so you could just listen to a YouTube video at twice the speed or thrice the speed when it's embedded, but still most people don't use that, and that increases the time on site factor. So yes,
if you're creating,
go ahead.
No, we had a delay. I was just going to ask, if you're creating content for both social media and the hub, what approach do you take? Do you create content for the hub and then parse it out in social media? Or do you think from the social media perspective, and then from that, fatten up that content to apply to the hub? Which direction is best to think of all this in terms of efficiency?
I would prefer to focus on the Content Hub with a tight editorial process. So if we design the content creation process effectively, you'd be starting with a long form, and then you'll be going to the shortest form of content that's possible. And when you're writing the long form, it is very essential to keep in mind the end result. A part of this is also going to go to social media, which is going to be in small pieces, and those pieces should be interesting, attractive, captivating, which also means that the entire article should have more of those interesting pieces for it to be read. Because if there is a 1,000-word article out there, no one is going to read the 1,000 words until and unless every other line is interesting enough, valuable enough for them to continue reading. The moment you lose an audience interest, they're not going to read any further. So if that is kept in mind and if that is being the focus, then the entire content should be social media worthy. So if a piece of content or a segment of content is not social media worthy, then I would go back and ask whether is that piece of content worthy to even be in the article or the content hub in the first place. So content hub should be the starting point, and having a complete understanding of how the content is going to be repurposed and how the content and what are the different platforms it's going to be in, all those will help us to create content guidelines for the writers to effectively create content around it.
I agree with that, but I like how you say that, and it makes sense that you would put your effort into, I guess, the engaging content that's going to go on your hub, and then down later. Plus you're looking for curated content and other types of content to build your hub with as well. So that probably acts as an interesting point, which we're going to talk about here momentarily. Content hubs tend to create a centrally focused activity for employees, partners, and collaborators to rally around. So with a content hub, if you're a corporation, then obviously you can bring your teams around that content hub, assign different channels and types of content, or however you break it down, in order for those teams to collaborate. But it creates a central place where the message of the company is reinforced, where the ideas are reinforced, as well as the ideals of that company. And so that content hub can become an extension of a shared vision that your company has when they collaborate together around what it is they're doing and why. But if you're a small business, you can actually invite partners to collaborate on your content hub. And this becomes a great way to create outreach, to network, to interact with people via LinkedIn or whatever the case may be, inviting them and doing co-interviews and a variety of other collaboration, all because you have a content hub. We used to love to do magazines, and a great way to network when you had an online magazine was to simply invite somebody to be on the cover and to cover them, do an article on them on the inside of that magazine, and it was quite prestigious. Well, the same thing with a content hub, because you have a following, a number of people that are typically commonly interacting with you, and there is prestige in that. So it's a great way to network, it's a great way to collaborate, and it's a great way to bring everybody your content. When people come to your content site as well, web pages are very much becoming standard, what a marketing web page should look like, right? A business. There is just a certain footprint that we're all starting to meld into, because it's the most converting footprint. It's the most engaging, and it presents information in such a way that people are digesting it better. This is becoming almost formulaic. But when it comes to a content hub, how you present that information and the way it looks on your page is more attuned to exactly what it is you're saying and what it is that you're telling them and how it is that you're approaching them. And you would create a content hub for financial reasons, probably in a stricter and more purposeful way, if you will, than you would for a kid's gaming content hub, where you would be more lively and haphazard and sporadic and having things flying across the screen in order to maintain their focus on the hub, right? But so content hubs can be shaped. They can be a little erratic. They can be a little slap shift, just kind of look like they were pieced together like a bulletin board, because that is part of the message that you're conveying. With different media, multiple perspectives, no real mandate to stick to a regimented process, these content hubs allow for an artistic expression, not necessarily acceptable on typical information platforms such as a blog, a magazine, or a corporate website. And this media mix can be coming from all kinds of areas. It could be homegrown content comes to you, produced by internal resources. So it could that's the content that we're talking about, your team putting together, or you as an entrepreneur putting together, that is very much connected to the heart, passion, soul, mind, consciousness, and energy of your product and services and what it is that you're doing in the world. It could be curated content from companies or media sources that you deem credible and authoritative. You could even curate content via paying for it so that you get the content that is that has authority. You can also find yourself in the news or on the news, or hopefully for something good. you can interact with people and do interviews and things of that nature. Even just you and someone that is in your business, you give each other an interview, and both of those interviews could be content that you put on your content hub and go from there. So social media content published on your hub can be promoted via social media, and you can also use your content hub to repurpose your Twitter feeds or bring in other Twitter feeds that are copacetic with whatever your vision is for that content hub. Your user-generated product content created by customers and partners. We kind of hit on that here a moment ago. Oh, and advertising, offers from your company and sponsor, not in a here's my product, buy my product type of way, but more it's a great place to demonstrate your annual seminar or something big that's happening in your company, that something that everybody would be riding the trend of, right? Apple would potentially put their iPhone content on there, the next release of the iPhone, something that everybody wants, but may not necessarily be pushing auxiliary products and things of that nature, right? So you get the idea. But there's a lot of mix that you can bring in that depending on the time of the year and what it is that you're trying to accomplish, you can work with on that content hub. So this idea of content hubs is a big palette. It's a big canvas, and your palette are the assets that you have and the message that you have. And just like a painter, I encourage you to think about the background of this palette. What do you want as a backdrop? And think about content that will make up that backdrop, that will reinforce the very core of your theme. And then from there, build your painting out all the way to the very fine detail and the very idiosyncratic things that people would want and be concerned with, such as your font, such as how the hub looks, such as the colors, etc. How does it feel? Is there any restrictions? Is it easy to share? Make it as shareable as possible. And in each piece of content, what will you do with it? What kind of call to action? What kind of network will you plug into, etc. But you have to have a plan. That's my point. And if you need a plan, you're welcome to go to our site, keydifferencemedia.com, and get started on a 3-day feed you through email type of content marketing strategy approach. And you need to put together, really get down to the nitty-gritty of what it is that you want that theme to be. And once you have that clarified, you'll find that the content will just come rushing towards you. Here's a few that I encourage you to check out. Some of this content that we used here came from these links, so I give those to you. You can pause the video and go also put them in the YouTube upload. And again, for any additional information, you want to schedule a strategy call, I'm James. This is Key. You can catch us on my calendar and set something up where we can discuss. But other than that, I hope you go out and create a kick in Content Hub, something that is just exciting for people to collaborate around and work with people, network with people, bring their energy into that hub and make it vibrant. And if you do that, you're going to find that it's a great strategy in the overall content marketing approach to driving business to your website and to your offers. Mr. Key, what do you have for us? Anything as we head out?
On the Content Hub part, we just need to ensure we focus on the user, we focus on the value we drive to the user. That's the first and most important thing. So every post that is created, that is posted, should focus not just on the keywords and what traffic it brings in, but on what is the size of the problem it solves and how easy is it for them to go through the article and solve it. So talking about a problem and talking about a solution is one thing, but making sure that the solution is applicable, solution is implementable, solution is easy for them to understand, comprehend, utilize, and see the results through is the most important thing. So that is one of the reasons why the most successful content hubs, they come with a long form content. Sometimes the contents are as long as 3,000 words, but if it takes 3,000 words to get a message across and to get a result across, then that is what it takes, and that effort needs to be put into it. So focus on the users. Second is focusing on the content. So content hubs tend to focus more on the content, but they tend to miss out on the users, which is why the content is created in the first place. So if they focus solely on the user part and then secondary on the content part, and most of the things are taken care of. The marketing has to happen definitely to get the message across, but when the marketing happens, the results are going to be exponential because people see the value in what they have to offer, and it makes sense to share it because they are confident that their name is not going to be tainted by sharing this. They know that this site continues to provide the value that they rely on, and that their friends, their contacts, or people they share to and speak about can rely on as well. So this
So
prioritization should be clear.
I'm sorry, for a small business, how can they get started creating their own content hub and working it into their own content strategy?
A small business is
Short of
where
hiring a
the
company to do it
creation
all
is
for them.
easier. If you look at a small business, the business owner is the one who is dealing with their clients. He's the one who has created most of the business process, and he's the one who is also creating content in most of the cases. So he understands intuitively as well as practically what his clients, what his prospects need. He knows their story. He or she understands their problem, and all he has to do is flow in. He just has to compile everything that he deals with in a day-to-day manner, clarify it, and make it into a comprehensive steps. If he has to pull in information from 5 of his client interactions, and he has to organize a solution to a problem, then he could very well do it. So for a small business owner, that is the most easiest thing he could do, because he is involved in 100% of everything related to that business. The challenge comes in case of small business owner. The challenge is his lack of expertise on content writing part, or on organizing the content and the technical areas. But when it goes to a larger business, a mid-sized corporation or a large corporation, that is where the challenge becomes bigger. They have resources for technical things, they have resources for content, they have resources for most of the things, but they do not have the real touch with the clients. The guy who is writing is not the guy who's interacting with the clients. The guy who's writing is not the guy who's technically solving the problem. So that is where the lack of uh, closeness in the content between the problem, the solution, the value driven, and the message happens. So the challenge in the small and the big are two different ends. It's like one has each one has one part of the sequence sorted out.
Yeah, you're right. And there seems to be kind of a breaking point where you are publishing on your own, or doing it within a company. You have to find where that cue is, where that point is that it's going to become problematic for you, etc., as opposed to support. Now, my idea here is, what would somebody do with regards to a smaller company? What would they do to actually create a content hub? Can they just get a content hub template and put it on WordPress and go from there?
Okay, so like you said, there is no such thing as a content hub template, but there are there are many themes which can support. Before I talk about this, I think I should address this one thing about WordPress. These WordPress guys, the WordPress developers who are working on the core of the WordPress, they had a conversation about what is the next thing that we can implement as part of our WordPress theme, WordPress core, and they come up with a feature idea, and someone in the team says we have a plugin that does that, and then they come up with another feature that they can incorporate, and then someone else says we have a plugin that does that. So they keep going through a list of features, and for every single thing the answer is one and the same. There's a plugin for that, and you don't have to make the core bulkier. So WordPress has everything that Content Hub needs. It definitely has everything that a business owner needs to put up his site up and running. But the important thing here is to make sure and remember that less is more when it comes to adding things onto a WordPress site. There's so many colorful gems out there that you can add, which makes your site nicer, but it also makes your site slower, more complex, and difficult for people to go through. So WordPress is a great platform, and there are many themes around it which they can use. The themes which are, again, when it comes to Content Hub, the theme should focus on the content and should have a good understanding of their audience. If you're talking about a photography Content Hub, you should definitely have a site which is 100% visual, or at least 95% visual. The images should take the most priority in that Content Hub. But if you're talking about a lifestyle blog, lifestyle-based Content Hub, then you need to have only 50% focus on the image and 50% focus on the content. So there, the Content Hub is going to have an equal balance between the written and the visual part of it. So if you're looking at, let's say, a programming-based Content Hub, then it's going to be completely inverse. It's going to have 80% focus on the content because it's programming and they have very little things to do with the design. And they're going to they might even be video focused and text focused, but not as visual focused as a photography blog would be. So the theme that they choose has to resonate with this. A photography theme is not going to be good with any other theme. So when choosing a theme, make sure that it is content focused, has less clutter, minimalistic design, and very simple and easy for people to understand, responsive, compatible with all devices, and etc. Of course, every theme is compatible with all devices, but if you try to read certain themes in a mobile, almost the header covers half of the mobile page, and you still cannot read the content properly. So making sure that even in a mobile version of the theme, content focus is there is very critical, more white space, etc., the standard parts. So keeping all this in mind, choosing a right theme and utilizing it makes a big difference, because when it comes to Content Hub, it's the usability factor. If someone doesn't find it as easy to use, read, and stay on, they're not going to just stay longer. So as long as that is taken care, any theme is okay, and normal WordPress setup is okay. But the biggest challenge here starts with the content. So if the content is done right, everything else falls in place.
So even as a salesperson, I would suggest thinking of very specific aspects of what you sell. And you could create a content hub around that specific aspect, just so that when you're talking to clients and you key in on that aspect that 80% of your clients are interested in, you could send them a link to a content hub where they could find that they would be engaged on a regular. This is something that you could even possibly represent yourself, just in a way to aid you in your sales. But the tighter the niche, the more likely that content will resonate. And then you notice content hubs, when you get to them, like Keith says, they are an expression of whatever it is that theme is, and usually they're very heavily inundated with the content, very much in your face, and they're also very fresh. They change that content on a regular basis and move it around, so that every time if you come back to that site daily, you're getting something fresh. So it's a lot like, just constantly putting that vision of what's on that front page in front of them, because they may only come to your site for a short period of time to be able to get some initial connection. You want to make sure that what they engage with on that very front page is always fresh, always relevant, and always in demand. All right, lots of other things we could talk about how to find in-demand content to mix with this, and various other strategies, but put all the strategies that you learn into this idea of a content hub and go out there and leverage this thing in your content marketing strategy, and I think that you'll find great success. Let us know if we can help in any possible way.